Hello and welcome everybody to WTF Wholesome Twin Flame Coaching. My name is Dr. Rania Beef and I welcome you all to the show. I'm a little peeved today because YouTube changed things around again and apparently a channel under 1000 fans does not warrant a nice live stream unless you have a super duper web camera, which I do not have, so I apologize for the bad quality. I usually use my phone to do the live stream, but that's no longer allowed for people with fans less than 1000. So my appeal to you to please share and make sure that people actually subscribe to this channel. That'd be really helpful for the quality because setting up a webcam extra on your laptop is just way too complicated. That's what we've all got smartphones for. So, grand over. Okay. I also wanted to share this live stream on Facebook, but then YouTube has beta version out that they just had to try without me noticing it was actually the wrong setting. So by the time I had figured that one out, it was time to go live. So here I am. Those of you who know that I go live every Monday at 2:30 UK time are hopefully here and watching. Everybody else can watch the replay and rejoice in what I have to talk about today anyway. So I figured, since things are a bit messy and twin flame relationships are too, I just go back to the basics and I researched a few articles that talk about twin flame relationships in regard to the differences of twin flame relationships and soulmates. And since I'm having to do this on my laptop now, I apologize, but I will look at the article simultaneously to talk about a couple of points that I've found that are worth talking about. So I found this article on Goldcast, and it talks about the differences between a twin flame and life partner. And apparently there are three subtle differences that one can look out for. First of all, I find their introduction a bit strange. Because it starts out with, have you ever met someone for the first time and felt instantly drawn to them? Well, that's usually how we fall in love, isn't it? And then it goes on to say, well, if you then see things like 1111 very frequently, or the same numbers and whatnot, then you're probably in a twin flame relationship. Seeing all these synchronistic things like repeating numbers, or always the same kind of car, or things like that, does not mean that you have found your twin flame. It just simply means that you have a spiritual awakening. You're becoming more aware of what's behind the veil, as we say. That you're becoming more aware that you are a divine being, having a human experience, a physical experience, rather than the other way around. And whether or not you will actually meet your twin flame has nothing to do with that whatsoever. You may be lucky or unlucky to meet your twin flame, as I've discussed before. It can be very tumultuous, hence the title of the show, right? WTF was chosen on purpose. Because it can be challenging. But before we get back to that, let's just look at what this person wrote here. They say that the twin flame is your mirror because they reflect back to you your weaknesses, but also your greatest strengths. This I find definitely to be true. Having talked to a bunch of twin flame couples and being in my own twin flame relationship, I do notice that I'm not sure I would call it a mirror, but I do notice that we bring out each other's best as well as each other's worst, so that we can build on the good and heal what we call in duality the worst, so that we can become more and more the divine being that we're meant to be here on earth. So for instance, if our twin flame partner keeps acting in a way, despite this unconditional love that a twin flame relationship is, this inexplicable unconditional love, keeps acting in a way that does not allow you to live a happy life as a couple, as life partners, because circumstances don't allow, or the partners own issues don't allow because they need a different time scale to, to heal, to resolve themselves, to be experienced fully. I've lost track. Then it is obviously difficult to just say, well, we are perfect mirrors of each other because we happen to bring out the worst instead. What is true, however, what this person says is that it is a place where relationships and personal growth collide. That is definitely true. Just like I just said, if a person has a different time scale and they choose to grow differently, slower or more or faster than the other person, the match as life partners might not necessarily be a good match at that particular point. That's why so many twin flame relationships actually break up, and they do need a bit of time apart to do their own growth, and then very likely they'll somehow meet again until they've actually learned and healed whatever they came here to heal. So it is true when they say relationships can offer incredible radical personal growth, as powerful as any spiritual practice. That is true of any relationship. Whether you have issues with your narcissistic mother, for instance, it will definitely teach you how to not only love unconditionally, but also in this unconditional love, how to set boundaries for yourself, for instance. Just because we love somebody unconditionally, and that goes for any kind of relationship, also twin flame relationships. If you feel like your boundaries have been crossed, then you need to take a stand for yourself. There's no point of loving unconditionally and giving to any detriment to yourself. If you end up being depleted at the end of every day, if you feel like you're not getting out of the relationship that you've been in over an extended period of time, there's always ups and downs and whatnot. That's not what I'm talking about. But if overall you feel like you're not happy, you give more than you receive, there are things that you find normal in a relationship, expectations that you would like to have met that are not being met. And those are boundary issues that you need to learn to take a stand for. And a twin flame relationship, as uncomfortable as it might be, is the perfect opportunity to teach you how to do that. Especially with this spiritual conundrum that we often experience in our spiritual growth when we learn about unconditional love and having to, not having that, learning to forgive another person for our own sake, really, because it doesn't help to harbor resentment. Because just like Buddha said, not being able to forgive and harboring resentment is like carrying around a hot coal, hoping to burn the other person. It doesn't happen. The other person doesn't get to fly, right? It's us who then deprive ourselves of joy and happiness just by holding on to resentment. So learning to forgive does not mean that we can keep condoning behavior that definitely hurts us and harms us. Because if we experience rejection and ostracism and a variety of narcissistic behavior patterns on a prolonged basis, it will deteriorate our own well-being, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And that is, of course, a great opportunity to grow beyond that. And it can be more challenging than any other relationship that way, obviously, because it is also true what they say, twin flame relationships keep coming together. They might take a break, they come back together. So, what this person says here says, a twin flame relationship is when two people are perfect matches as a result of shared pain or another difficulty. I'd like to disagree with that. I've seen in other couples and also in my own twin flame relationship that I have definitely had Other friends, soulmate relationships, whether they lasted over a weekend or over years, which, by the way, does not necessarily mean a romantic relationship. You can have soulmate relationships with family members, friends, any sex at any given time in your life. Just means that you're a kindred soul, that you've known each other before. And I've definitely had experiences of shared pain and similar experiences that we could bond over, more so with soulmates than really with my twin flame. My twin flame really, just like all the other twin flames that I know, is really more a matter of finding those spots that hurt the most and then poking them inadvertently, in a way, because that's just the way they are. So, let me just have a sip of water. So this person says, as a difference between a twin flame and a soul partner is that first, a twin flame relationship isn't about love. Life partners are based on it. If you did not love your twin flame, you would not keep going back to them. This is how I see it. That kind of love is possibly very different from that of a life partner. But if you didn't have this love for each other as twin flames, you would not be able to get under each other's skin to that extent that only twin flames can. That life partners may or may not be able to do. That is very different. They say that a twin flame isn't about love, it's about truth. It is about truth found in love. The only reason that you keep coming back to each other is because you love each other. So on some level, you are always capable of forgiving each other, because what you're doing is basically forgiving yourself. So while mentally you might be in a position where you say, what the hell, never ever again, in order to maintain your boundaries, on a deeper level, on a spiritual, emotional level, you are capable of forgiving the other person. It is about that truth, the divine truth of unconditional love. That's really, that's all there is. Unconditional love. It does not mean, however, that you have to keep taking, behavior or accept behavior that is not aligned with your expectations, with your boundaries, etc. So this aspect of how much you love the other person, how much you want to stick around with them, is much more easily negotiated with a life partner or anybody who would qualify as a life partner. And maybe that is what they mean, where, when you're in any other kind of romantic relationship and you realize, okay, my bullet point list, these things are fulfilled or they are not fulfilled, I'm done, I'm moving on. It's much easier to do than with a twin flame. You might move on to the twin flame, but at some point you'll get back together. And as I said, even though you might not be in a romantic relationship with your twin flame, there will always be this really deep connection that is different from a life partner that we might choose for a variety of reasons, really. So it does cause radical personal awakening for one another. I still would not call it a perfect match, however. So they actually quote Dr. Lisa Vallejos here, who says that the real purpose of twin flame is not about great sex, emotional highs, and an epic love story. It's to wake you up, shake you up, and call you higher. It is a gift presented by the divine, one you can only grasp fully when you've released all the smaller things you've been clinging onto for so long that no longer serve you. And that is definitely true. It does shake you up. It's one of the most exhausting relationships you can possibly be in, but the personal growth is immense. Which kind of ties in with the second point here that they make. Your twin flame is supposed to cause you pain. A life partner isn't, but probably will. When a life partner really causes you pain, I don't know. I guess pain is inevitable to have certain experiences to grow through suffering as we still do as humans. And close relationships will always have points of contention that allow us to face emotional challenges. But twin flames are supposed to cause you pain because they do reveal those wounds inside of you that are deepest, that are darkest, that are the most hidden, that need to be brought to the surface in order to heal. So let's say, yeah, so they say it's in the very definition of intense personal growth that one must experience great pain to realize a great transformation. The pain experienced in a typical relationship with a life partner can and often does help us grow, but it's more about learning to work together between one another and live with one another. So that's very much true, which kind of shatters, however, our dream of our twin flame being our life partner. And that is something I find a lot of couples struggling with. Once they found their twin flame, they think we want to live life happily ever after because the love is so intense. Everything is so much more intensified. You know that you're home. So whenever you do get together on an emotional level and then even, underscored with physical union, you want this to be your life relationship. And then when growth happens, and growth happens in ways that do not align with this dream of living a life together as a happy couple, then there's even more pain to be faced, and that can be extremely challenging. Um, yeah, that is probably the most challenging for most twin flame relationships. That they have this idea. I don't want to call it an illusion, because I believe it is possible to live together as life partners and have a common goal and have a common mission. But it's not necessarily always so, or it's not, at least for a particular time, it's not so. And realizing that, and then having to part again and do your own healing, live your own life with your twin flame around in some capacity, possibly as a friend or somebody you cannot let go of, somehow there but not really in your life. That is probably the hardest thing that twin flame relationships experience. So 3, a life partner is someone you want to spend your life with. A twin flame is someone you can't get away from. So I kind of mentioned that already. You cannot get away from them. So no matter how much you want to, at times, it seems like the universe is playing a cruel joke on you and might put you into a financial situation where you're completely dependent on each other. Like you try to live together and it didn't quite work out. You have different goals at the moment in life, different priorities. Yet neither of you can leave. So one thing or another will tie you together. Whether it's children, whether it's finances, whether it's having bought a house together that you simply can't sell, so you can't just split the money. So what you're going to do? It's like the universe plays a cruel joke. That way, we find it cool, of course, because humans don't really understand what's going on. The divine seems to know. I'm looking forward to knowing too. Again, once I'm past the veil. However, so we really don't seem to be able to get away from each other. But then again, that accelerates our growth. We then again just have to, well, I wanted to say give up, but to just surrender to the situation. Go and be introspective, look within and see what is going on. Why do I want to get away? So what emotions are not are coming up? What needs are not being met? What boundaries are being crossed? What wounds present themselves that way? How can I heal them? So in the end, any kind of challenge in this way will point us into the right direction of finding out what it is deep inside that we really have to still release and let go of. So, and they say in this article, that's the one caveat to the eternal connection one develops with a twin flame. It may take quite a long time, but it will end if the root cause for the connection is healed. At least the need for a recurring physical connection will end. And this is, I find, where I guess I'm still missing some data. If, once the root cause is healed, you're allowed to finally split, and that's it for the rest of your life. You can go and find a real life partner that, love life is more smoother with. Or if you're then ready to really work as a unit and fulfill your mission that I always thought you had. So obviously I inform myself a lot about what other people say about twin flames, what their downloads are. My personal download was that once I met my twin flame, that we had a mission together on Earth. And I read that from a lot of other people as well. But how that is supposed to actually pan out, if there are instances during your lifetime where you have to separate and do your own personal growth, like, the two roads are kind of not together, one path, and just kind of split and then run parallel more or less, maybe a bit wavy, one's further ahead than the other one's further ahead again, whether you're actually supposed to meet up again and fulfill this mission together or not, I think we cannot yet tell, because after all, this twin flame relationship phenomenon is still fairly new. There are only so many twin flame relationships that we know about. There's only so many downloads that we get, so many lives that we have been able to observe. And I think at the moment what we observe most as a bit of a chaos that's going on, and not really so much the end result yet of twin flames. So there's not really much that we can say about that, other than I can give you my own information, what my own download was, which was a common mission, which is reflected by other intuitives who have said the same. But how it actually pans out is obviously very unique to every single couple. Because after all, we still have free will, right? We might have an idea of what we want to do when we come onto this plane of existence. But once we're here, we still have free will. How much do we remember of what we wanted to do? How much do we allow ourselves to heal and thereby do what we came here to do? That takes a lot of courage to go inside and face your darkness, to go through the dark night of the soul, to barely sometimes be supported by 3D, and have that growth actually occur. And everybody's on their own timeline. Everybody chooses how much they want to do, if they want to do it. So in the end, if it actually matches up and you can do and fulfill your mission that you're supposed to, or were supposed to fulfill together as twin flames, who knows? But that's the adventure of life, isn't it? So let me just check the time. I don't want to go over time. So we've got a bit of time left. So they, of course, give 10 signs that you may have met your twin flame. And again, may have met. So number 1, you feel like you've met this person before. I can debunk that. I met plenty of people in this lifetime that I know from past lifetimes, and they have nothing to do with being my twin flame. That's just a matter of soul connections and how aware you are as a spiritual being of the subtle connections that we all have with pretty much everybody, first of all, on some level. Then, of course, a more intense level in our soul families, etc., etc. They make you feel as though you're home. Again, I believe, and I've experienced that, a lot of people can make you feel at home depending on how much you can connect with another person based on similar experiences, similar pain that you share. You instantly establish an intense connection. Again, that I have done with several people who turned out to be same soul family, same soul tribe, who are now in one capacity or another light workers scattered throughout the world. We met for maybe a weekend or a course or a seminar or training, recognized each other, but then moved out of each other's lives again. But we still had this intense connection right away because we just recognized each other. We recognized each other's soul friends. You feel at ease to be yourself. That is kind of true. Definitely, since you talk to yourself in a way, when you talk to your twin flame, you can really kind of be yourself if you let yourself. If, of course, your mind gets in the way, which I've seen with some twin flames, especially male ones who are very mental, then it can be different. Or when you get triggered to a point where you suddenly display emotions that are more detox symptoms and you start lashing out or turn into fury, things like that, then you wonder if it's really yourself. It's an aspect of yourself, but it's not really yourself. So again, I'll take this with a grain of salt there. You challenge each other, that is definitely true. They make you a better person in a way, just like I said before. Every encounter with any person can make you a better person. It depends on how you look at the relationship, how you look at the interaction, what you manage to get out of it, and how you manage to use that information to heal something that might need attention. You may come in and out of each other's lives. We've talked about that. Your relationship can be rocky. Talked about that. But then again, that can happen with a lot of different people. My mother, for instance, is not a twin flame. However, our relationship is more than rocky. And who doesn't have that in their life with one person or another, right? Most people do. So I'm not sure how this could be a criterion for knowing that somebody is your twin flame. Your love for each other isn't necessarily romantic. Based on my experience with twin flame relationships, those relationships are always romantic. So that is based on my personal experience. Number 10, they expose you to different perspectives. And you think differently when you are with them. You feel a sense of awakening. These are actually two different points there. They expose you to different perspectives. That can happen with a lot of people. Has happened with a lot of people that I've met throughout my years here on Earth in this lifetime. A sense of awakening is not something that I experienced with my twin flame. I've had that with soulmates. I've had that with people that I had a soul contract with. Also romantic relationships, by the way. But not only that, I had moments of awakening or being pushed forward in a spiritual way with a lot of different people. Not so much with my twin flame. My twin flame is more about deeper healing, really, really deeper healing. And that resonates with a lot of other twin flame relationships and their experiences that I've talked about with other couples as well. Sense of awakening maybe for one of the twin flames. I've mentioned before that very often one of the twin flames is more spiritually aware in this lifetime than the other. And then, of course, the less aware person would have a spiritual awakening in a sense. However, how they then take it and develop it and use it to actually grow into their divine self, or whether they choose to ignore all that, leave the twin flame relationship behind because it's too challenging on too many levels, and just focus on 3D, that is, of course, completely up to them. And this is where some of the contention in a twin flame relationship derives from, in my experience. So if you want to read up on this article, it is by Matt Valentine on Wholcast, as I said, wholcast.com. Please feel free to read it and let me know what you think. sorry that I had to keep looking away from the camera to read it to you, but even if I had it printed out on paper, I have to do the same. Yeah, so I hope that this was a bit enlightening. As usual, I shared what my downloads were, what my experience has been. I encourage you to write to me or contact me in any way to leave feedback, discuss what I've just talked about, and come at me with any questions that you might have. If you ever wanted some life coaching, I'm happy to do that as well. You can stay anonymous, that's no problem. And in order to improve the quality of this video, maybe I'm thinking I might, depending on what's going on that particular day, if we're doing a live coaching or not, I might just go ahead and record with my phone again, just so that the quality is better, and then upload it. So we'll see how that goes. And just like I promised last show, a couple of shows ago, that I will be talking to a colleague of mine who's a relationship coach as well, a dating coach. That will still happen. We are still trying to align. If you wanted to know about what alignment is, look at last week's episode. I talked about that extensively there. All right, you can find the links to my englobing pages on Facebook, Twitter, and my webpage all in the comments. Please share, please comment. I welcome you back every Monday at 2:30 UK time. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, namaste.